The knock came like a demand. Not polite. Not hesitant. 3 hard raps that said whoever stood on the other side already believed the door belonged to them. I glanced at the clock. 6:47 p.m. Dinner barely started. My wife, Sarah, was still in the kitchen, sleeves rolled up, humming softly like nothing in the world could go wrong. The knock came again. Louder. I opened the door to find Karen Whitmore, president of the Willow Ridge HOA, standing with her arms folded like a courtroom judge. Beside her was a man in plain clothes, wide stance, hand resting a little too close to his belt. "This is Officer Whitmore," Karen said sharply. "My husband." He flashed a badge, but only for a second, just long enough to make sure I noticed. "We need your house keys," Karen continued, skipping hello like it was optional. "You're in violation of HOA Code 14B, unauthorized interior modifications." I blinked. Interior? Officer Whitmore stepped forward, already crowding the doorway. "HOA has the right to inspect properties when violations are suspected." "That's not true," I said calmly. "And you definitely don't get my keys." Karen's lips tightened. "Don't make this difficult. We can do this the easy way or what?" I asked. The officer leaned in, voice low. "Or I cite you for obstruction. Maybe take you in for questioning." Behind me, I heard the kitchen go quiet. Sarah had stopped humming. I could feel her presence now, standing just out of sight, listening. Karen smiled, that thin, satisfied smile she always wore when she thought she had power. "We've had complaints," she said. "Strange vehicles. Late nights. You people thinking you're above the rules." "You people?" I repeated. The officer's eyes flicked past me, scanning the house like he already owned it. "Keys," he said. "Now." That's when Sarah stepped into view. She wasn't angry. She wasn't rushed. She wiped her hands calmly on a towel, walked up beside me, and looked directly at Officer Whitmore. "May I see your badge again?" she asked. He smirked and raised it higher this time. Sarah nodded once. Then she reached into the drawer by the door, the one we never used for keys or mail. She pulled out a leather wallet, flipped it open, held it up. The air changed instantly. Her badge didn't flash. It didn't need to. The seal, the number, the unmistakable authority stamped into polished metal. Officer Whitmore's face drained of color. Karen laughed nervously. "Oh, please, what is that? Some kind of security job?" Sarah's voice was calm. Dead calm. "Special Agent Sarah Hayes," she said. "Federal." Silence. The officer took a step back, an unconscious one. "You're on my property," Sarah continued. "You're abusing your position. And you just attempted to coerce access without a warrant." Karen's mouth opened. "Closed." "I suggest," Sarah said, lowering the badge, but not the pressure. "You both leave. Now." Officer Whitmore swallowed hard. Karen finally looked scared. And for the first time since we moved into Willow Ridge, the knock that wasn't a request turned into a retreat. End of chapter 1. Karen didn't sleep that night. We knew because by 7:12 a.m., the Willow Ridge HOA group chat exploded. HOA alert. An incident occurred last night involving residents and law enforcement. The board is reviewing the situation. "Reviewing," Sarah muttered, scrolling on her phone. That's HOA speak for panic. Outside, curtains twitched. Neighbors who had never made eye contact suddenly became very interested in our driveway. I poured coffee. "Think they'll pretend it didn't happen?" Sarah gave a small smile, the kind that meant paperwork was already moving. "Oh no, they already made it official." At 9:03 a.m., a black sedan rolled slowly past our house. No HOA logo. No patrol markings. Just government plates and tinted windows. It didn't stop. It didn't need to. By noon, Karen was at our door again. This time she knocked. Softly. I opened it to find a very different woman than the one from last night. No folded arms. No smug tilt of the chin. Just tight lips and eyes that hadn't blinked enough. "I'd like to clear up a misunderstanding," she said quickly. There was no abuse of authority. My husband was off duty. Sarah stepped beside me, calm as ever. Off-duty officers still can't threaten citations, she replied. Or demand keys. Or imply arrest. Karen's voice wobbled. We were just enforcing HOA rules. Sarah nodded once. Which is why internal affairs is now involved. Karen froze. Internal what? Sarah didn't raise her voice. She didn't have to. Your husband flashed his badge in a civil dispute. That's a formal complaint. Logged. Timestamped. Verified by doorbell footage. Karen's face went pale. You reported us? No, Sarah corrected gently. We documented the truth. Karen laughed nervously. This is ridiculous. The board will back me. They always do. That confidence lasted exactly 4 hours. At 4:26 p.m., a county vehicle parked outside the HOA clubhouse. At 4:31, 2 investigators walked in. At 4:47, Karen stormed out, phone pressed to her ear, shouting, I don't understand how this escalated. Neighbors gathered like it was a block party. By evening, the HOA website updated again. Notice. President Karen Whitmore is temporarily stepping down pending review. Temporarily, I read aloud. Sarah smiled. That's the polite version. The next knock came after sunset. This time it was Officer Whitmore alone. No stance. No smirk. No hand near his belt. He stood on the porch like a man who had just learned his uniform didn't make him untouchable. I need to apologize, he said. Formally. Sarah crossed her arms. Go on. I shouldn't have come here, he continued. I shouldn't have shown my badge. I shouldn't have listened to my wife. That's a start, Sarah said. He exhaled. Internal affairs is thorough. I know, she replied. He nodded once, eyes down. I'll stay off HOA matters. Permanently. Good choice, Sarah said. He left without another word. That night, Willow Ridge felt different. Quieter. Like a place that had just learned rules worked both ways. From our window, I watched Karen's house. Dark, silent, curtains drawn tight. The woman who once demanded keys now couldn't even open her own front door without wondering who was watching. Sarah set her badge back in the drawer. Think this is over? I asked. She shook her head. HOAs don't quit. They escalate. I looked at the dark street. So do we, she said. End of chapter 2. The emergency HOA meeting notice hit every mailbox at exactly 8 a.m. Mandatory attendance. Violation enforcement and community conduct review. Mandatory was Karen's favorite word. The clubhouse was packed that evening. Folding chairs scraped the floor, voices layered over each other, and the air buzzed with a kind of excitement usually reserved for public meltdowns. Karen sat at the front, but not in the president's seat. That chair was empty, a detail no one missed. The vice president, a nervous man named Greg, cleared his throat. Let's keep this orderly. We're here to address recent concerns. Karen crossed her arms anyway, daring the room to challenge her. A neighbor stood first. Is it true a police badge was used to demand house keys? Murmurs rippled. Greg adjusted his glasses. That matter is under review. Another voice. Under review by who? Before Greg could answer, the clubhouse doors opened. 2 people walked in. Not HOA. Not residents. County investigators. The room went silent like someone had flipped a switch. Karen's face drained of color. This meeting is private. One of the investigators spoke calmly. Public association. Open meeting. We're observers. They took seats in the back. Greg swallowed. Moving on, agenda item 1. Unauthorized interior modifications. That's when Sarah stood up. Every head turned. She didn't bring her badge out this time. She didn't need to. I'd like to clarify something for the record, she said. HOAs have no legal authority over interior spaces without court orders or consent. Karen snapped. That's your opinion. Sarah smiled slightly. No. That's statute. A neighbor pulled out a phone. Another followed. Greg tried to regain control. Mrs. Hayes, please sit. No, Sarah said calmly. I'll finish. She turned to the room. Last night, an off-duty officer used his badge to threaten access to our home. That interaction is documented, time-stamped, and now under formal investigation. Karen stood abruptly. You're lying. One of the investigators cleared his throat. We are not disputing that, he said. The room exploded. Whispers turned into shouts. So, she sent her husband? That's abuse of power. She tried that with me last year. Karen looked around, realizing too late she wasn't in charge anymore. Greg raised his hands. Order. Please. Sarah continued, voice steady. If anyone else here has experienced intimidation, now would be the time to document it. That did it. Hands went up. Stories came out. Fines that made no sense. Threats during inspections. Rules enforced only on people Karen didn't like. The investigators wrote everything down. Karen tried to leave. She didn't make it to the door. Ma'am, one investigator said, standing. We're going to need a statement. Her voice cracked. This is harassment. No, he replied. This is accountability. By the end of the meeting, the agenda was forgotten. Greg resigned on the spot. The emergency meeting ended with one final announcement. The HOA board is suspended pending review. Outside, neighbors stood in small groups, stunned. A woman I barely knew approached Sarah. Thank you for standing up. Sarah nodded. I didn't. You did. Karen left last, head down, no allies, no authority, just consequences. As we walked home, I asked, think they learned? Sarah looked back at the clubhouse, lights still on, investigators still inside. They learned one thing, she said. Badges don't belong to HOAs. End of Chapter 3. Karen didn't disappear after the meeting. She watched. 3 days passed. No notices. No emails. No fines taped to doors. Too quiet. That's never a good sign, I said, looking out the window. Sarah nodded. Silence is preparation. The first strike came in the mail. A thick envelope. Official looking. Bold lettering across the top. Notice of legal action. Karen's name was nowhere on it, but we recognized the wording immediately. HOA letterhead. The same phrases she'd used for years to scare people into compliance. I skimmed it. Cease and desist. Defamation. Interference with HOA operations. Sarah sighed. She hired a friend of a friend attorney and copied half the neighborhood. I added flipping pages. That's ambitious. By evening, my phone buzzed nonstop. Did you get this letter? Is this real? Are we being sued too? Karen hadn't just aimed at us. She'd fired blindly. Sarah typed one email. Short. Precise. Please preserve all communications related to this notice. Do not delete anything. She hit send. At 10:18 a.m. the next morning, the county replied. Not to Karen. To everyone. Notice. The Willow Ridge HOA is not authorized to initiate legal action while under suspension. That should have ended it. Karen didn't stop. She posted a long rant in the HOA forum accusing certain residents of weaponizing federal connections and threatening law enforcement families. Screenshots spread fast. Too fast. By noon, the post was gone. By 12:07, Sarah's phone rang. She put it on speaker. This is counsel for the HOA, a tired voice said. We are formally withdrawing the notice sent yesterday. Sarah replied evenly. You may also want to advise your client to stop posting defamatory statements online. A pause. Then, quietly, we already did. That afternoon, a marked police cruiser stopped outside Karen's house. Not her husband's. Another department. 2 officers knocked. Long conversation. No raised voices. But when they left, Karen was shaking. That evening, Officer Whitmore's patrol car wasn't in the driveway. It never came back. Neighbors noticed. So did the investigators. By the end of the week, a final update appeared on the HOA website. Karen Whitmore has been permanently removed from the board. No farewell message. No thanks for service. Just gone. The retaliation she planned had done what her power plays never could. It showed everyone exactly who she was. As the sun set, Sarah locked the door and slid the chain into place. Think she's finished? I asked. Sarah paused. She's finished here. I looked down the street. For sale signs were already appearing. Karen's house lights were off. They always forget, Sarah said softly. Paper trails don't disappear. End of chapter 4. Officer Whitmore didn't show up to work on Monday. That alone sent a ripple through Willow Ridge. By Tuesday, it was confirmed, quietly, unofficially, but clearly. His name was off the duty roster. His patrol unit reassigned. Another officer driving the route he once claimed like personal property. He's been placed on administrative leave, Sarah said, reading from her phone. With pay? I asked. She looked up. For now. The word now carried weight. Internal affairs moved fast once everything was stacked in one place. Doorbell footage. Witness statements. HOA emails. Karen's deleted posts, recovered anyway. It wasn't just one mistake anymore.
It was a pattern.
On Thursday afternoon, an unfamiliar sedan stopped in front of our house. 2 men got out, plain clothes, serious posture. They didn't knock. They waited. Sarah stepped outside, badge clipped visibly to her belt this time. One of the men nodded. Special Agent Hayes. We just wanted to inform you your statement was corroborated. And? Sarah asked. And the officer admitted to displaying his badge to influence a civil dispute. I watched from the doorway as the man continued. That changes things. By Friday, the news reached the neighborhood the only way it ever does. Quiet conversations and loud conclusions. Officer Whitmore wasn't just suspended. He was facing formal charges for abuse of authority. Karen stopped leaving the house. Groceries arrived by delivery. Curtains stayed shut. The confident walks, the clipboard patrols, the knock that wasn't a request, all gone. One evening, a moving truck pulled into their driveway. Not big, not permanent, just enough for essentials. They're separating, a neighbor whispered over the fence the next day. Sarah didn't react. That happens when power disappears. A week later, a certified letter arrived at our door. Not from Karen. Not from the HOA. From the department. Notice of termination proceedings. Sarah read it once, then folded it neatly and placed it back in the envelope. That's it? I asked. She nodded. The badge is already gone. This is just the formal ending. The following morning, Officer Whitmore walked past our house for the first time since everything began. No uniform, no radio, no confidence. He didn't look up. He didn't need to. The neighborhood already knew. That afternoon, the HOA website updated one final time. Willow Ridge HOA will undergo restructuring with county oversight. Translation: no more Karens. No more threats. No more pretending authority existed where it never did. That night, Sarah opened the drawer by the door. She didn't put her badge away this time. She clipped it to her jacket and smiled faintly. Think it was worth it? I asked. She looked at the quiet street, the unlocked doors, the neighbors finally at ease. Every time, she said. Authority only matters when it's real. End of chapter 5. The for sale sign went up on Karen's lawn at dawn. No announcement. No goodbye post. No final message in the HOA forum. Just a sign, staked into the ground like a surrender flag. It's priced to sell fast, I said, checking the listing. Way under market. Sarah nodded. She doesn't want questions. Or inspections. But Willow Ridge had learned something Karen hadn't. Silence doesn't erase history. At the open house that weekend, the street filled with cars. Potential buyers wandered through, chatting casually. Neighbors wandered too. Not inside. Outside. Talking. By noon, the real estate agent's smile had tightened. By 2 o'clock, the sign-in sheet was half empty. One couple lingered near the sidewalk, whispering. The words HOA investigation floated clearly on the air. The agent made calls. Karen didn't come out. Monday morning, the listing status changed. Price reduced. That afternoon, Sarah's phone buzzed. County compliance, she said after answering. Yes, understood. She hung up. She disclosed the HOA suspension, required by law. And the rest? They found it anyway. A week later, a buyer finally made an offer.
Contingent.
Very contingent. Inspection. Document review. HOA disclosures. Everything Karen hated. The deal fell apart in 48 hours. Meanwhile, Officer Whitmore's name appeared in a public notice. Not headlines. Just a line. Employment separation finalized. No badge. No pension. The moving truck came back, bigger this time. Neighbors watched, not with satisfaction, but with something quieter. Closure. As Karen supervised the loading, she avoided eye contact. No clipboard. No shouting. Just a woman reduced to gestures and silence. When the truck doors closed, she stood there for a long moment. Then she looked toward her house. Sarah stepped outside. Not confrontational. Not triumphant. Just present. Karen opened her mouth, then closed it. Whatever she'd planned to say didn't survive the moment. She got into her car and drove away. The house sold a month later. Below asking. To a quiet couple who waved when we brought over cookies. The HOA was reborn slowly. New bylaws, open meetings, actual limits. No emergency notices. No threats. No keys demanded. One evening, sitting on the porch, I asked, "Think she'll ever stop blaming us?" Sarah smiled faintly. "Maybe." Then she added, "But that won't change the record." The street was calm. Normal. And for the first time since moving in, Willow Ridge finally felt like a neighborhood, not a power trip. End of Chapter 6. The first real sign that it was over came quietly. No notices. No emails. No envelopes taped to doors. Just a new HOA bulletin board installed outside the clubhouse. Clean, plain, and empty. "They took everything down," I said. Sarah nodded. "That's how you reset a place." The restructured HOA held its first open meeting a month later. No raised platform. No gavel. Just chairs in a circle and a simple agenda. Rules were read aloud. Limits were stated clearly. No interior inspections. No intimidation. No involvement of law enforcement in civil disputes. Every line passed unanimously. Neighbors who had avoided meetings for years finally spoke. Some for the first time. Stories were shared, not to reopen wounds, but to make sure they were never repeated. Karen's name wasn't mentioned. It didn't need to be. A new president was elected, a retired teacher with a steady voice and no interest in power. Fines dropped. Warnings replaced threats. Transparency became policy, not a buzzword. Walking home that night, the streetlights felt warmer. Weeks later, a letter arrived addressed simply to residents of Willow Ridge. Inside was a single-page notice. County oversight concluded. No further action required. Sarah folded it and placed it in the same drawer where her badge rested. Not hidden. Not displayed. Just there when it mattered. Life settled into something ordinary again. Barbecues returned. Kids rode bikes past sunset. Doors stayed unlocked a little longer. One evening, as we watered the lawn, a neighbor asked, "Do you miss the quiet before all this?" Sarah thought for a moment.
No.
I looked at her. "Quiet without fairness isn't peace," she said. "It's just waiting." The house across the street, Karen's old house, glowed softly with new life. Laughter through open windows. No clipboard shadows. No sudden knocks. The past didn't vanish, but it stopped controlling the present. As we went inside, Sarah turned off the porch light and smiled. "Funny thing about authority," she said. "It only works when people believe in it." And Willow Ridge had learned the difference between power taken and power earned. End of Chapter 7.